Alright guys, HyDra back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Have we officially moved from a top 4 in the CDL now to a top 3? The New York Subliners, after a very respectable Major 2, have seemingly massively fallen off, losing to Ravens the other day, and somehow going down to the Seattle Surge last night. Losing a control was absolutely inexcusable, and after the fact, lots of reaction from other pro players, but also from Simp, underperforming last night in that series, going off on the main stage on Twitter.com last night against anyone that was tweeting at him. Very much on Twitter, your thoughts in the comment section below. Do they miss Priestahh? What is going wrong with this team? Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. Couple of comments on the flank real quick, just because there's been some further drama, right, between Ben and Scrappy and everything that's gone on over the last few days. This is from a touch a couple of days ago, forgot to mention it, thought I'd chuck it in now. Been loving your input recently on the flank because the theory goes that Octet never gets to speak. And there was that episode 2 days ago where Ben wasn't there until the very end, and there was debate to whether that was better or worse, and you know, we read the comments, it was rather entertaining. I know that Ben and Zuma also got into it somewhat after this comment from Ben about the fact that if Scrappy comes on and keeps roasting him, he's going to kick him off the show, and Zoom was kind of like, well, you know, you might also have played a part in being the problem in the way that the show is currently going, but, you know, whatever. I'm sure that it's only a matter of time until we get more of this type of stuff. The show is nonetheless still massively entertaining, but every couple of weeks now, we get some sort of Ben JoeDeceives versus somebody drama. This is also here from Dashy talking to TJ Halley, because the record is pretty impressive from Shotzzy and Dashy. They're now 23-4 in their last 27 qualifier games from the end of last year to now this year, of course. They went on that pretty crazy run at the end of last year. They went, what, 5-0, 5-0, and then came second at the Major 4, whatever it was, and then obviously had a tough time in Toronto. 38-16 in their last 54 matches as well. So, yeah, TJ's asking Dashy what Cherry's got. He says, like, can we get Gwyn some help here? And yeah, TJ's reply maybe doesn't go down quite the same way. But to be fair, Ravens got the victory, effectively 1 versus 4 against the Subliners. Like, Gwyn was doing it all on the Friday night against that team. And, well, if Clay, fellow Tej play a bit better, maybe they even win more comfortably than that. And to be fair with, for the Ravens guys, they just got their facility in order. They just got their setup going, and they had various, like, Ethernet and I think internet issues. They got, like, 1 map of warm-up. So even the fact that Ravens, pretty much they came on Twitter afterwards and explained the excuses that they might have made if they'd have lost the series. But actually they won the series. So, you know, as soon as I saw that from the Ravens, that they were talking about how they actually had some issues on match day, and they still beat the Subliners reasonably emphatically in the end, wasn't really a great sign for them. And that's then when we get into last night's series. And Seattle Surge, it was tough to read into their series against OpTic, right? Because they played OpTic relatively close. I mean, the 6-star hardpoint was close. After that, OpTic handled business, but I mean, that high-rise search wasn't pretty, but OpTic win it in round 11. So it was reasonably competitive, and it was still a 3-0 for OpTic. But I thought Surge looked okay, but was that OpTic just starting slow? Turns out, Surge might be alright, and it's incredible what happens when you put players on the roles they actually want to run. Like, it just confused me for when this team was formed, the Surge roster, with Arcetes and Illy and aBeZy, and aBeZy was running a sub, and then aBeZy came in, and aBeZy I think is better on the AR and would prefer to run it, but he wasn't able to when Arcetes was on the team. So now Arcetes is gone, 04's in the team, playing with Hook, and now aBeZy can run the role that he wants to run. All of a sudden he's way better. And this from the COD League, right? Because Surge go up 85-12, and people are thinking, oh, you know, nice start, you know, but Subliners are going to come back in this one, stop the count. But actually, that's not really how it went. This tweet as well from Dashy, I'm not sure whether this was referring to the Subliners or whether this was referring to the previous series, because I think this came out maybe during map 1 of the New York series against Surge, around about that time anyway. So he might have been referring to Vegas and like roasting them, as we saw yesterday, or he might have just been referring to the Subliners, because to be fair, New York and even Dashy made it clear on the flank a couple of days ago that he's not particularly impressed with New York's playstyle. JP Kreswright, the coach of OpTic, said the same thing the other day when he was discussing the teams that they struggle the most with in practice, or at least get the best practice against. And JP said, yeah, FaZe and Ultra, those are the teams that actually play proper COD. Subliners are good, but they don't feel like playing New York is even proper practice, because they just play in a weird style. And if you look at the league table right now, Subliners are quite a way behind. I mean, they got top 12 at Major 1, and sure, Major 2, they went 6-1 online, and they got top 3 at LAN. But since then, and even at Major 1, very different story. So whoever Dashy was referring to, he could definitely be talking about the Subliners here, and for very good reason, to be honest. And game 1 was as follows. I mean, you know, look at the overall KDs here. Kismet was having a hard time. HyDra was having a surprisingly difficult map, but he bounced back in the end. O4 had a great 3-piece here as well. But they just dominated Subliners here on... I mean, when you're losing to Surge in 3 respawns in a series... There's nothing more unacceptable than that, to be fair. And sure, Surge have clearly made a bit of a stride, but I don't think Surge are a good team. I'd want to see more evidence of that. And like OpTic 3-0'd them just 2 days ago. So they're not exactly a top 4 contender, in my opinion, but they still beat the Subliners here. Game 2, the Bulldog closed it out. I thought, all right, you know what, fair enough. Give New York a bit of a pass. But I still wasn't massively impressed. And I guess the question really is, why are the Subliners struggling in this game? They're the reigning world champions, let's not forget. Sure, the team is different. No Priestahh. Sib is now in the team instead. And we said at the time when they made that decision, it's difficult to justify ever making a move when you win the world championship. Now, I'll be honest, if they'd have kept Priestahh, would they have been in a much different position to they are today? There's a debate to be had on that, because it's not like Priestahh has been playing especially well this year on Boston. Their team has also been struggling. Maybe Priestahh isn't as good at this game than last year, but I think that's certainly true for some of the New York guys. HyDra is still incredibly good, I think. Like, to me, he's still a top 5 player in the game, but he's no longer like undisputed best player in the game by a mile like he was last year. And I still think he's very good, but you know, Skyz, the question is on his impact. To me, I think it's a question on Kismet, really. And I know there was some debate on this because Kismet was known as 99 Kiz because of how good he was last year, 99 rated. Some people have been calling him like 100 Kiz because he's 100 HP COD merchant, not 150 HP, maybe he isn't as good. And I don't know if there's anything to that, but it doesn't feel to me that Kismet is as impactful as he was previously. I don't think the HyDra and Kiz as a duo are working as well with each other as, you know, they have done before maybe, and obviously last year's game, and what that means for the future, because look, this is an Invasion control, and Invasion is a map that, you know, any team maybe can do well on. But usually, if you're a team trying to win this map and you're a terrible control team, you're thinking, all right, let's just go round 5 and try and win a defense. But no, they get this done in 4 Seattle Surge in crazy circumstances. They were like 1 in 17 in the last 18 controls. Like the worst control team in the game by an absolute mile, and probably the worst we've ever seen in the CDL. And yet they beat the Subliners reasonably comfortably on a control, which is completely unacceptable. And, you know, that's what was said. The curse has been broken. Sure, they're eventually going to win one. But we know the record of the top 4 versus the non-top 4 this season. It's dramatic in favour of the teams that are in the top 4. And New York Subliners are still in the top 4, and it's difficult to choose a team right now to, you know, leapfrog them. But honestly, it feels to me that we've gone from a situation where we had 4 teams that felt like contenders. And, you know, we talked about this on the Joke Jig episode the other day. People asked us, like, do you think Subliners are going to win an event this season? I couldn't see it. Now I certainly don't see it. Like, I don't think they're on the level they need to be at. And HyDra drops 43 on the map 4, ties the hardpoint kill record, but it's not enough. They still lose. And this is now a very consistent trend with the Subliners, not capitalizing on the kills that they get. And yeah, fair play to Surge. I mean, here they are in person. I think 04, I don't know where 04 plays from, but people said maybe Boston. So yeah, the internet situation ain't great, is it, to be honest? They're playing from Vancouver, but it was cool to see the passion from Seattle, and yeah, for them to get a victory on the board. Player of the match goes to Brez. He thought he played really well across the game, and it's cool to see this. But yeah, have a look at this scoreboard, right? Because Skyz has 92 kills here, and sure, he has a lot of damage, and you might think, well, you know, dropping lots of damage, lots of kills, that should be fine. But maybe the answer is, well, okay, how much is that tied into the objective then at that point? Because the Karachi and the Vista and the Invasion were both pretty comfortable. Like, if you'd have told me that Surge would win 3 respawns against the Subliners, I'd have been mind-blown. And to be honest, even when New York played Minnesota Rocker the other day, they won that series, but they won it relatively closely fought, and the respawns were very close in that series again. And I thought, well, you know, first game kind of jitters. But this maybe is why Vista and Six Star, they're not being played by New York. Like, they've decided until last night's series, and even in this series, to still not play the new maps. And I think that shows some, I don't know, lack of confidence maybe, because the New York Subliners, the first 2 series they played of this current stage, there was no Vista in there was no Six Star in there. They just avoided those new maps. And I don't know, that was interesting to me because the actual top teams, the OpTics, the FaZes, the Torontos, they were straight getting in those maps into the pool to try and get reps on them. But New York weren't. They seemed comfortable to play what they knew, and then they play Vista, and sure, HyDra drops like 43 kills, but it doesn't matter. Like, they were probably never going to win that game. Like, it never really felt like New York had a chance in the early days until, as time progressed. So, yeah, what's going on with the Subliners, and why are they just poor this season? Of course, Sib is absolutely feeling the pressure right now because, sure, top 3 at the last event, but they won the World Championship and 3 events last season in total. This year, there's 3 more events to go, and they ain't going to win all of them, and they'd be lucky to win 1, I would say, as it stands. And even Seattle Surge in a phenomenal tweet, I wonder who the imposter could be, and yeah, maybe there's one answer right now. So, bit of a self-dig maybe from Surge, talking about, well, we're probably not going to beat the other guys if they're legit, but still, New York, what a turn of events, and definitely this top 4 conversation potentially now becomes more of a top 3 conversation. And if Toronto continue to look a little bit up and down, maybe it's even a top 2 conversation at some point. I hope that it will remain a top 4 conversation, but right now, if New York played Thieves, if New York played, well, I might say Vegas, but yesterday wasn't pretty for Vegas, but let's just say Thieves right now. If New York played them, how would it go? Like, would, New York Subliners actually win that series or not? They lost to Ravens and Surge over the last couple of days, and the numbers on the season, to me, don't really tell the whole story of how things have gone here. Because sure, the Slayer ratings, the KDs, they look really nice, but we know that hasn't been translated. And yeah, they're 4th with like 190 points. I'm pretty sure 3rd is like 250, 260 now, so they are quite a way off, to be fair, New York, of being where the top 3 teams are. And to me, it's a mix of things. It's Kismet just not being quite as good at this game, and it's, I don't know, maybe the pacing with Sib, kind of difficult to say, but they get a lot of kills. Sometimes they just don't execute on those kills. But understandably, I think Sib is feeling the pressure here because he was brought in to replace Priestahh. The intention was, well, they were going to pack a punch, right? They were going to take that next level. That's what ReeaL said in the podcast with Sib that we did on the Break and Watch channel a few months ago, when he was like, yeah, if you got the opportunity to pack a punch, you take it. And, well, they thought it was a pack a punch. Not so clear that's the case as it stands. And therefore, Sib just decided to go off at everyone last night. And this guy, you can't shut him up. Now, to be fair, he did delete this top tweet. Fools are just getting free dope like it's real. They can enjoy this because it's the only time they're going to be able to get it. So I guess his argument is, all right, we're struggling now, but it's not going to last forever, which maybe is true, but it's not like they're trending in the right direction. It's not even like there's many positive things to say. Their Surge, okay, well done, you won the Search against Surge, but Surge weren't exactly looking great in that game mode when they played OpTic on it the other day. Like, they were looking pretty lost on that high rise, and then losing 3 respawns, and it's not like they have a 6-star or a Vista or one of the new maps they're really good at. They just seem to be struggling kind of everywhere. So this guy Fraser, who's clearly, got a baby in his even profile picture, says the following: just look at your profile pic and you get no bitches. You don't have any room to be talking about another man. And he actually kept on going at Sim, which is pretty sensational. So, stick to playing Call of Duty, little man, says Fraser. So, like, why is Sim beefing with these guys? Like, sure, you'll see sometimes players, they might have a bit of back and forth with the fans sometimes. But the fact that Sim was just, like, going on about this from time to time, I don't know. This guy is an interesting character for sure. He says whatever he wants on the flank and on stream with these other things. And it wasn't even just that guy who's replying to, like, he replied to a couple of other guys as well. That's so unfortunate, right? He dropped a 0.7. Because, yeah, I guess we should have a look at the series numbers in a little bit more detail because he didn't have the greatest time. Sib had, 0.70 KD. Had a really rough couple of respawn maps there to close out the series. So what's next for the New York Subliners? How do they, turn around from here? And what's the future for Sib? Because I think the Subliners as an organisation, they wanted Sib in for a very long time. They even looked at him during Cold War, right? They couldn't get him, or they didn't get him, or there was drama, whatever. And when the opportunity arose to get Sib, they pulled the trigger and they did so. He's been okay this year, but arguably, of the teams in the top 4, the theoretical top 4, Sib is the weakest of those 16 players, probably with Envoy right now, to be fair, in terms of performance levels. So, those are the teams to watch and to look for. If you bring Priestahh back in, theoretically, do they get better? Maybe. I'm not sure they get better enough, though, because I feel like there are other problems there as well. But a couple of series to dive into today. The big one really, well, okay, actually, the big one is not this one, but it's interesting. Beans versus Gunless, they had a fair bit of beef last year, you guys might remember. They play tonight. They're both back in the league. Beans on Boston. Gunless, of course, on the Minnesota Rocker. Feels like an interesting series of Rocker, and honestly a bit of a must-win for them because they're 0-2. It's probably a must-win both ways. Boston desperately need any 10 points they can get because their World Championship qualification is far from guaranteed. And the Minnesota Rocker, they're already 0-2, and they lost to the Subliners the other day, which doesn't seem particularly impressive based on what we have just seen. And then FaZe Ultra Baby, we've finally got it again. Drazah versus Scrappy back in business. This to me will be quite telling actually because they both like to play the new maps. FaZe like to test things out. Will Envoy turn it up in the hardpoint game modes? That's what I want to see. I think this can honestly go game 5. FaZe should be the favourites, obviously, but I don't know, I can feel an Ultra Game 5 victory being plausible here, and Scrappy's obviously going to want to win, but so is Drazah, and it feels to me so far that when Drazah really, you know, is absolutely 100% focused on winning series, like he has been against OpTic so far, for good reason, as the CEO, then it tends to work out for him. So, yeah, 2 big series to close out the day, but very much interested to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.